Hello and welcome to R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm Kayla McGowan, Editor-in-Chief, and today it is your lucky day. We are here with RIA's quarterly update, and I am joined by Jeff Moore, current president of RIA, and Ben Looper, immediate past president of RIA. We're tackling a variety of topics today, but the first one I'd like to tackle with Jeff and Ben is the cost of doing business. That's where we left off last time. So Jeff, what do you have on cost of business for us?
Yeah, so we have wrapped up. We've taken all the surveys. We're doing data analysis, I think, over the next, call it 30 to 60 days. So that report should be out and available for everyone next year. But now it's the hard work, collecting the data from everyone that filled out the survey. Thank you for your time. It took about an hour, but now there's a ton of analytics going on. We've got a full committee analyzing the data, and then hopefully we'll have that live for everyone sometime in 2026 to use. But incredible data for those that haven't seen it. Highly encourage you to do it in the future, but it does give you a way to look at your competitors, your peers, what's it actually cost to run a restoration business, because we don't operate on 10 and 10 like a lot of people think, and we have true overhead that well exceeds what everyone thinks it is. So very invaluable tool if you haven't seen it yet.
Awesome. Anything to add there, Ben?
Yeah, I want to personally thank the over 100 organizations that put the time and effort into filling out this cost of doing business survey. It is something that we've never had in the industry, and it's something that we need to continue to enhance. If you were interested but didn't have the chance to participate or just didn't get around to it, I would encourage you to put something on your calendar for next year in the second quarter, in the April, May time slot, to commit that time to do that. Takes about an hour, and it really does benefit and enhance the industry. The RIA and know-how putting this together gives people information. I'm personally interested in seeing what the differences from the feedback are going to be from last year to this year of the cost of doing business survey. So just looking forward to getting that information compiled and getting it out to our members.
Yeah, and I would definitely say this is a key piece to help people not only with the now, but in the future, right? Because now we're going to have 2 years, 3 years of data that we're able to compare and see where there's been influx and changes. And it could potentially help us for future, right? Forecasting for the next 5 years or what have you. So everybody's participation is extremely detrimental and important to the cost of doing business. Though it is closed, once the results come out, it can encourage those who didn't maybe participate to take that hour, because it's really worth it, because it doesn't just help you and your business, it helps the industry as a whole, and for you to understand where there's strengths and weaknesses that need to be discussed.
I'll do one follow up on that. One thing I did a post online. It was fascinating. I can share it with you, Kayla, but it was I looked at the cost of doing business survey last year and compared it. We've got this reputation that restoration contractors are basically raking in the dough, have these big fat profit margins. And it was funny. I looked up some quarterly statements for insurance carriers, data providers, software companies, independent adjusters. And using the cost of doing business survey, we as contractors, even though, some will say we have 60, 70% gross margin or 30%, depending on what your business is, we're actually making less money than most of the others in the industry. So insurance carriers are making more, data providers are making more, software. So although it's a very lucrative, fulfilling industry, it's not nearly as profitable as sometimes the actual gross margins allude to. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And I would definitely say for our industry in particular, we love to serve. So that's definitely what makes us very unique. Yes, we are in the business of making money and whatnot, but also I think our passion and our love for helping people is far more driving important and more important than the margins. And I think that's great that you brought that up, because I think to your point, a lot of people think we make a ton of money, but really our satisfaction and our love is taking care of people. If I'm being quite honest, right? That's the one thing that most people don't really see, because they see the business side of things and they think it's all about money. But really, some of the people in our industry, if not most, all have such a big heart. Like they love to serve, they love to help. And so understanding that the level of service that we actually do give is a lot different than what we see in our profits, right?
100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think us in the industry, we know, but for some people who are new or maybe outside looking in, they don't really understand or know. So I think it's important that we share that type of information. So we'll have to get together offline and maybe work on something because I think that's extremely important to put things into reality for those who may not know the industry or those who are new to it. Because how many times have we met somebody who's new and they're like, I'm going to make a bunch of money coming into this industry? You're like, hey, slow down just a little bit. You got to pay your time there and learn the industry and learn how things work, and the money will come, but it's not going to come at 90% profit, right? Like let's be real here, guys. Let's put things into perspective. With that being said, I think there was another key initiative, the TPA Scorecard. And we briefly touched on that last time. Is there anything you'd like to add or maybe bring up for that particular initiative?
I'll take this one lead off. I know I've had several conversations with some TPA or managed repair program executives, and they've actually thanked the RIA for taking this initiative. They weren't happy with some of the results that they got from some of the scorecards, and it's actually caused some good conversation and some opportunity for them to go in and address some of the concerns or things that they didn't score really high on or real well on, and are willing to make a difference. I've been surprised by the level of willingness from some of those TPAs to come alongside the information that we've received and to make some positive changes and have some conversations that likely would have not have happened without those scorecards. So excited about what the TPA scorecard, is doing. We want to continue to have some of the RIA members that are participating in those TPA programs following through and helping us with that scorecard, providing the information, because the more members we have and the more information we have, the better data that we can, put out there and give to those TPAs to go back and address some of the concerns or some of the things that are out there that can make a difference there.
That's
Yeah,
definitely key too. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
I was just saying, it's been really important for us the last few years. So TPAs, people may label Ben and I as, pro TPA. The reality is RA represents TPA and non-TPA vendors. In my opinion, there's about 15,000 restorers out there, about half of which participate in TPA. So it's really important that anyone who's doing 50% and participating in some fashion or show, we have made a huge impact over the last 3 years. From the first year we did it, it was almost laughable, the response from the TPAs. They didn't even want to see it. They didn't want to read it, to now requesting it, going over in board meetings and quarterly reviews, asking why they weren't at our convention this year. So it's amazing what we've been able to do and the change and the direction we've been able to do with all of them over 3 years.
Yeah, and I will definitely say too, this is a key part of our industry is collaboration and leveraging TPAs, but also how we can play our part and how they can play their part, right? That's the success of the industry relies on great collaboration and honest feedback, if I'm being quite honest. And we're able to utilize our industry professionals to do just that and help us share that information with the TPAs and help make things better, right? Make processes easier. Maybe their customer service isn't there or whatever the case may be. We're able to have a safe space to discuss these pain points or maybe things that they're doing really great, right? I think that's the other thing is where are they going year after year? What's the feedback from our industry professionals, which is really key because we do rely on TPAs and they rely on us as well. So what better way than to collaborate and make sure that we're sharing the results that we're receiving? So now we had a great Facebook Live event last week with Mark Springer on carrier relations. And if anybody missed it, you can go watch it on RIA's Facebook page. It's still there for you to view. And I'll share the link down below in the description so you can just click on it and watch it and replay it instantly. But Jeff, is there anything you wanted to add there? It was about an hour long, if I'm not mistaken. Quite a few people jumped on. But for those who missed it, do you want to give some key information that was shared there?
Yeah, I think the highlights is we've created basically two task force. We've got one represented by contractors that have relationships with carriers, and then we're looking to bring on, and we've brought on a few members that actually work at carriers, for carriers, by carriers, to get them on board with where the RA is going. We ultimately want to reduce friction, and again, half our network is on TPA, half is what we'll refer to as independent and not on TPAs. But the reality is the insurance carriers are involved on a lot of jobs that restorers do. I'm not going to sit here and say that insurance is reimbursing or paying for 100% of claims. That's definitely far from the truth. But I don't know if it's 90%, I don't know if it's 95%. There's insurance involvement, whether you want to do TPA work or not, whether you're going to deal with the adjuster or simply tell your customer that, the policies between you and them, they are involved. And there is more animosity, and Ben can speak to his perception. I think in our business and in the restoration business than there ever has. I think we're in the public eye now more than we historically have. So I think it's important for us as restorers, first of all, not to take a lot of things personally. At the end of the day, their job is to pay the bill, whatever they owe. It's our job to document it. And so you're dealing with someone who's never been to your house. You're dealing with someone who's asking questions. And in my opinion, a lot of people take things personally. They're simply asking questions. I had someone on social the other day say, well, I had a $25,000 bill and they only wanted to pay me $10,000. So they had a bunch of questions. Why don't you just answer the questions and justify the bill? It's not that they're not willing to pay you $25,000. Maybe you just need to do a better job of explaining it. So I'm not here to advocate what you should or shouldn't do, but it is our job to document if whether they're paying us directly or they're paying my customer, which is ultimately who signs restorers contracts. I don't want to put my insured or my customer in the middle of a war. That's not helpful for the industry. That's not helpful for my customer. Even though the insurance company technically is never legally my customer on any job, I do ultimately, as a restorer, I want to get paid as fast as possible. And if that means I need to talk with the adjuster or justify what I did and why I did it, then to me, that's the best avenue for a contractor to go. May not be right for everyone, but I think it's really important whether you're pro TPA, pro carrier or not. This will ultimately help the industry and hopefully reduce some friction. We're never going to reduce all of the friction, unfortunately.
Yeah, great points there. Ben, you have something to add?
Yeah, I think from an ecosystem, a claims ecosystem, we're at a better place than we maybe have ever been. This task force is certainly going to take that to the next level. Just having conversations with the right people that can help make a difference and make decisions. We started this several years ago with the board at RIA, and we've taken and implemented some of these meetings and conversations with carrier execs, TPA execs, vendor execs, and representing from the RIA, representing the membership in a way that we can hopefully address some of the concerns. A couple of the biggest concerns right now in the industry are the lack of communication and response that we're getting back from carriers and TPAs, and the extended amount of time that it's taken contractors to get paid for work that has been completed, approved, and been completed and getting done. And we're able to have conversations now and explain some of these concerns from the contractor standpoint or the TPA standpoint or the carrier standpoint. There's things that we don't understand as members that the carriers are dealing with or the TPAs are dealing with, and vice versa. There's things that we're dealing with that they need to know. As Jeff said, at the end of the day, the insured, and we're all insureds in our own way, are paying premiums. And when things happen, we expect, to get those fixed and expect the people to be paid. I don't know. I know when I have things done at my own personal home, I can't wait 80 or 90 days to pay some of the vendors that come out and do my work. That just wouldn't happen. So I don't know why it's gotten to the point where it has in the industry that it's okay to wait and pay the contractors and expect them to float the cost and to be able to do so. I said from the stage at the RIA, convention, I've been in this industry 31 years, and when I started, it was with yellow legal pads and fax machines, and I literally could get claims settled quicker and paid faster 31 years ago doing that than I can today. And with all the technology and all the resources that we have at our fingertips, there's really just no excuse. We've got to do better for our carriers. We got to do better for the members and everybody involved. And so we're doing the things that we're able to do. With people like Mark Springer coming in as the carrier advocate is going to make a big difference. He's having conversations already that are going to make a big difference in the future. So I'm excited about where we're headed with the RIA and leading that.
Yeah, and I will definitely say to both of your guys' points, one, we can control our narrative and how do we do things better, right? Documenting is one of them, taking the time to explain things to the carrier or even the customer if they have questions. right? I think it's just taking that time. And if we know that the callback time or the email time, response time is days, take advantage of what you have in that moment. If you're on the phone with somebody and they're asking you questions, answer them and give them the supporting documentation that they need as well. And I think we face an issue of turnover right now, especially on the carrier side, right? I think Ben, when I saw you at MTSU, we were talking about, the relationships were different. You could call your adjuster and you knew them, right? We don't have that relationship right now with, unfortunately, but we can get there, right? It's possible. Now, how do we do that? How do we bridge that gap? And I think this initiative supports just that. We're asking about our pain points. We're communicating and listening to what they have to say, but also what are the common problems that we're having so we can take those forward and say, hey, we're having problems with claims being, 120 days. I thought you were pretty modest. You said 80 or 90 days. I really feel like I hear 120 quite a bit, which is crazy to even think that. And personally, I had a loss during COVID. I had a water loss and it took me months. I'm being modest by saying months. My loss was in July and I finally finalized finished payment, everything. I think it was March. Like we almost went a whole calendar year and there was no reason for it. The argument was on materials. And, it's just like, holy smokes, how did we get here? How did it take us almost a whole calendar year over materials? It shouldn't take that. So how do we justify and how do we find a happy ground to where both sides are happy and the customer is taken care of? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about the customer. It's not about the carrier. It's not about the contractor. It's about the customer because they ultimately suffer at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
I think Mark quoted on the residential side, it's approaching 90 days on an average where the data is showing. On the commercial side, it's at 150 or better days that it's approaching. And we just have to do better as an industry to move these things forward. It doesn't do anybody any good, for these things to drag out as long as it has. So we got to move that needle and we got to start moving that needle fast.
I agree. I agree. And we have a great person in that driver's seat with some great people behind him as far as the committees and just those who are taking the time to share feedback. So thank you guys for all doing that. I think it also helps us propel our industry forward in more ways than you can possibly imagine. And speaking of propelling our industry forward, we finished the last time we talked about convention, right? We came fresh off convention. And I wanted to have everybody hear this little update about what to expect for 26 and when proposals will open and all that. So Jeff, I'm going to toss this one up to you and update on convention.
Yeah, so we are, the committee is working on proposals, but I would say anyone out there who's listening or has an idea, feel free to submit them to anyone that they know on staff at RIA. They can submit them to me, they can submit them to you, Kayla. We'll get them to the right person. We should have proposals out soon, probably before the end of the summer, but we're always looking for new ideas, or if you have subject or ideas you'd like us to speak on. So put it on your calendar, April 28th to 30th next year in Savannah. 2027 is going to be in my hometown of Phoenix. And then also coming up for anyone that hasn't done a regional event, I highly recommend them. We have 3 regional events. It's kind of like a little mini RIA, but it's more intimate. The thing I love about it is you get a tour of people's facility. And so you actually get to see a competitor of yours, and typically it's a really high-end, nice facility, but you actually get to meet a bunch of people, especially if you're in those areas. I highly recommend you go. I'd say 40% of the people are coming in from out of state, but 60% are local in that community. So the 3 coming up, you've got Thursday, October 16th, which is in North Carolina. It's in Charlotte at Mid-South. You've got Wednesday right before Halloween, October 29th, which we're going to have at McCabe in Memphis, an incredible facility. And then the last one will be at Thomasville on November 12th, and that's Baltimore, Maryland. So highly recommend. We typically get as few as 75 people. I think the most we've had is 150 people. So great intimate event to get to hear from speakers like Greg Pines, Aaron Broncos, people that you may see on stage, but probably don't get to rub elbows with or grab a soda with or eat lunch with. And in a small setting like that, you can really grab anyone's attention that you need to get in front of.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I believe I saw Ben at the one in Phoenix at ATI, and that was such a great event. It was my first AGA event, if I'm being quite honest, and it was great. It was great to see those who were local, but also to your point, people out of state. I mean, I'm from Vegas. I was there. I know the Thomasville crew was there, Floodlight. There was quite a few people who were there, and to your point, to have people in an intimate setting, you were able to have breakfast, lunch, grab a drink. I mean, you're able to have that opportunity where you may not have had it anywhere else, right? Conventions, you're usually chaos, if I'm being quite honest. And it was great because we also received RIA updates while we were there as well, which was really nice because it tied everything in. And I think it's, if you're considering it, you should do it. It's great, not just for you and your business, but it's great for the industry because we're able to talk about pain points as well and also bring that feedback to things like cost of doing business, TPA scorecard, and even just chatting with your leadership at RIA.
Yeah, can't agree anymore. Yeah,
I
it's that.
think I think I think the numbers speak for themselves for the regional events and for the RIA over the last 4 or 5 years. We've taken a approach as a board to we want feedback and listening to the membership and want to create these events around things that they're are dealing with and are most interested in. And we've done just that. And because of that, they're the events are selling out, filling up, and we're able to have great speakers come up. People want to be involved. I mean, the RIA, I go to all these other shows throughout the year, and not that they're not great, but the RIA show is the one that everybody's talking about that they don't want to miss, because we've been able to take the program and take it to a different level. And as Jeff said, these regional events, we're just able to do that in a smaller scale and have a little more intimate setting to where not only we can tour the facilities that we're at, but we can, rub elbows with all of those in our industry that we may just not have the opportunity on a consistent basis to do.
Yeah, very true. And I think also too, these are taking place during the time that much is not going on in our industry, to be completely honest. So you should capitalize on taking advantage of a smaller event, right? We know that there's the bigger conventions, right? RIA has theirs in April every year, and you know, you need to have more interaction and collaboration than just one time a year or maybe a couple of times a year. You need to take advantage of, especially if it's in your backyard, go and collaborate with those people. It also gives you an opportunity to lean on one another in the time that you have to pass business off or you need business or whatever the case may be. It's so much bigger than just an event, right? And I think that's extremely important to really stress that because seeing the facility is one thing, but meeting the people in your environment is absolutely another. And I will also say, I wear a unique hat in this space. I am on RIA's marketing committee, and all of your feedback and all of your ideas, they go through us too, and that's how we make sure that we're sharing the proper information and making sure that we're grabbing the right people and helping our other internal committees. And that's what we're working on, right? We're looking at 2025 and what we can do for 2026. And I think, for those on the outside looking in, we're a well-oiled machine and we're able to lean on one another to make sure that we're serving the industry as best as we can. So very fortunate to add that little hat and be on the inside and look how we can better serve our industry. So I'm very fortunate to be able to share ideas with these young gentlemen here on this call and the industry as a whole. So we've talked a lot about some
Hey,
updates. Oh, go
Love,
ahead, Ben. Yeah.
sorry, before we move on to the next thing, did want to mention we are aware of how many events we track all the events in the industry, and we are aware of the number of events that the industry has and the cost of travel that it takes to do that. So we've tried to offset that with a host. Obviously, takes on a big portion of that, along with sponsors and other things, so the members don't have to do that. I've been a proponent and big advocate over the last couple of years. I wish all of the industry would come together for one big event once a year, and we could put all our marbles into one basket, and everybody could do their own thing. And I don't know if that's going to ever happen in my lifetime because there's so many, different people with different agendas. But ideally for the industry and the people in the industry, I think if we could start consolidating some of that at some point, it would benefit everybody to be able to attend more of these things because the industry's gotten to a place now where it's a pick and choose kind of thing, unfortunately, and the RIA understands that, and we want to make sure, especially the conference and these regional events, we're doing everything we can to benefit the members and give them an opportunity to afford to be there and hear and do some things that they might not have otherwise.
Yeah, great points there. And I think, Ben, you and I were in the same room in February when this question was posed to me. Why does the industry have so many events? And to your point, many have different things to offer, but maybe one day in the perfect world we'll have maybe one or two events a year and then the rest will be regional because let's face it, we are in a service industry and anytime we're taking people out of the field, it is a pain point. It not only does it cost you to travel, but it's business too, right? Your business still has to run and there's still people who are going to have, their water leak or there's going to be a hurricane or whatever the case may be. We still have to have boots on the ground. So, I think that your point is very valid. I think we talked about this in February, and here we are talking about it again. I think at some point there's going to have to be some type of pivot for us to give back to the industry in a bigger capacity than we are right now. So maybe we'll meet in a I'm not going to say in a couple of months, but maybe like in a couple of years down the road, we'll like have one or two huge events. We could put that into the atmosphere and see what happens. But I think most people are feeling that. And that's why when we have these regional events, it's so beneficial because maybe somebody who couldn't go to RIA or the experience or Alacrity or what have you, they're able to go to something in their backyard and still gain the collaboration and information that they can utilize and not have the travel costs, if I'm being quite honest. I can't wait to see what the 2026 regional events look like because you guys have just scratched the surface with the places that we've done this year, and I think that we'll see some bigger and more frequent events maybe in 26. I don't know. Maybe that's a conversation towards the end of the year. But we've talked about a ton of updates, but I wanted to take just a second to pivot and just talk about the industry as a whole. Both of you gentlemen are business owners. You're in the weeds. And I think a lot of people are a little worried because times are slow right now. And I think they're wondering if it's just them, or is it just the region that they're in or just the region that they're serving. And, both of you serve several communities, several states. And I wanted to kind of take a second to just kind of hear your feedback. Jeff, I'm going to toss this one up to you first, but what are you seeing as a business owner right now? And, is it slow? Why is it slow? Are people alone? Is it a pain point for only certain people? What do you have to share on that?
It's really slow. So the extent of slowness really depends on where you're at, but I would say everyone from the TPAs to even the Cotalities and the Veris would tell you it's slow out there. I would say depending on where you're located. So if you're in LA where the wildfires are, you're in Texas where flooding is, if you're possibly where storms came in late last year, if you're in Tornado Alley, it's been a lot of tornadoes this year. So I would say if you're in any of those regions, I would expect to hear the opposite. But beyond that, I would say generally claims are down. And I would say that's reported claims because the reality is a lot of what we get is accidents. Don't get me wrong, weather drives a lot of what we do, but most of what we respond to are accidents. Accidents are still happening, but just like medical insurance and auto insurance, my kids and my wife and I think the last three car accidents 5 years ago, I would have filed a claim every time. My last three accidents, I'm like, my kid's gonna hit that side of the car again. So, it looks like is it $1,000 or 1,800 bucks for a $500 deductible? If it's not super obvious, I'm just not gonna file a claim. I'm not gonna do it. And so I think you've got more people that are cutting corners, going to Home Depot, renting equipment, or quite honestly, they're doing nothing. They had a little toilet that overflowed. I've got $1,000 deductible, or maybe it's a $2,500 deductible, and I don't think it's a big deal. And I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to hire a handyman, or I'm going to do nothing. And so I think reported claims are down, which ultimately means we, as I think contractors, need to figure out a way to get to the consumer if it's under deductible, if they're not filing a claim. If my wife runs a house, so if I didn't work at ATI, she's not going to find ATI. And my next door neighbor, if they don't know what I do, I promise you they will not find my company. They're going to find ServPro, ServiceMaster, or a local contractor who's doing Google ads and is going to be top of mind when they go to Yelp or to Maps or to find a local reputable contractor. Doesn't mean it is the most reputable contractor. That's just how they're engaging in their business. So I think us as restorers need to make sure we're all staying up with technology, being relevant, making sure your reviews, making sure someone can find you, someone who doesn't know who you are, that doesn't get referred to you by your insurance company. Would you actually find your own company? If the answer is no, then your business is probably hurting more so than others that can find you in a public manner.
Ooh, well said. Ben, anything to add there?
Jeff brings up some great points, and I would agree that there are certain regions that are dealing with different things, but as a whole, I think the claim volume for several different reasons. Jeff just mentioned the volume as a whole in general is down, and we've seen this in the past. If you've been in this industry any length of time, and I've been in it 3 decades, we've seen these ups and downs in the industry and where it's come from. What we haven't had to deal with was the deductible increases that Jeff's talking about, and how that's going to affect us long term. So there's certainly been a reduction in claims task and claims force, and a lot of the carriers. Perspective. There's been some changeover from the TPA side and some of the carriers. So all of these things are affecting, the amount of claims that are coming through. A lot of the TPAs and managed repair, programs have taken on more contractors, which splits the pie even further, due to the carriers, and if they've got relationships that they're bringing in to the fold. So there's just a lot of reasons why that might be the case. To Jeff's point, it's our responsibility to make sure that we're doing things to make ourselves relevant in our markets and in the industry.
Yeah, I would say to both of your guys' points, we are consumers as well. And if we don't have to file a claim or, pay that deductible, and we won't do it, right? I think it's just the way that life is right now. And especially for us that have kids and they ding their door or whatever the case may be, you're like, their kids, it's gonna happen again. So do I take the time to open a claim? And that's no different for somebody in their home, even their business, right? I mean, how many times do you walk into a business and you see their ceiling tiles with water stains, right? And you're like, what else is going on up there? But it's because they're like, oh, it's dried up, it's fine. So we are facing that too, because like you said, Ben and Jeff, their deductibles are higher, right? And not even to mention what their policy may or may not cover, right? That's not ours to interpret, but most customers, they're basing their coverage on what they can afford. So even if they were to file a claim, it doesn't mean it would be covered either. So it's, they're weighing those pros and cons as well. Like, oh, is it worth filing and paying my deductible? What if it's not covered? Then I'm going to come out of pocket. So we're facing a lot of variables, unfortunately, at this time. But I think it's something that, we've probably seen before, minus the deductibles. But, it too shall pass, just like everything else does, right? And it gives us the opportunity to learn and grow. But I think this is a great time for people to dig in deep and assess themselves, and see maybe where they could do a little bit better to have a better reach. Jeff, to your point, if you can't find yourself, that's a problem. How do you fix that problem? Is it Google Ads? Is it more community involvement? There's all other ways to solve those quote unquote current problems that you're having, but take a second to do just that and not worry, oh my gosh, it's just me. What can you do to be better? And I think that's, where you guys come in and you're able to talk about it because you are business owners, right? So to your point, do a little digging, see what you're up against and understand the lay of the land, and then you can make the assessments and changes that you need to make. But with that being said, I don't have any more questions or update questions. Do you guys have anything to add before we say farewell until next time?
I wanted to talk real quickly on industry relations that people may not be aware of. So the few things that we do behind the scenes. So you've got companies like Cotality, formerly CoreLogic. You've got companies like Verisk, ITEL, trying to think of like things that impact your typical restore, especially when it comes to pricing. These companies meet with us on a regular basis. And so a lot of what we do at RIA is done behind the scenes, and it is helping people that are, be honest, I'll be frank, whether you're a member or not a member, we are impacting your bottom line. We are improving pricing. We're meeting with all of the pricing platforms to make sure that they're looking at everything equitably. We've got monthly meetings with all of them. I just had a meeting, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, not only with like the Aaron Broncos of the world at Verisk, but we had their chief marketing officer, we had their chief product officer on, we had their data and actuarial products on, and they're working about getting us more data and information. They've got a a government task force relation. They're doing PR and outreach that they're now providing to RIA and support. And so we are collaborating with a lot of the providers that we use on a daily basis. And they are much larger organizations than my business, Ben's, or a lot of our enterprise members. So it's really taking advantage of those relationships. And some of that stuff we can share with our membership. Some of that stuff is under tight seal and NDAs that we can't always brag to you about all the good things we're doing. But I can tell you, Ben and I spend our time because one, we love the industry, but two, I always put my business hat on. We also spend time in here because if it's helping our business, it's helping everyone else's business in the industry. And I promise you, we're meeting with them on a monthly basis because it impacts all of our businesses. And we are out there fighting the fight, whether we can tell you everything we're doing or not. So if you're not a member, please join. We do need financial support. The more support we have, the more membership we have, the more of those fights. We want to hire someone to handle government affairs for us and challenge bills that require someone full time. And then unfortunately, we don't have the capital to do so today. But hopefully tomorrow and in the future we will. But that starts with you joining the association that represent you. We are the only ones out there. And if you're not a member, shame on you. Join the movement now and help make a difference in the future.
Awesome, man. I would definitely say to your point, Jeff, like this is driven by the restorers, right? All of these initiatives can be possible or they become possible with the support of the industry, and it's for the industry, right? And a lot of you wear a unique hat where you're a business owner as well. So these decisions not only impact the association or other contractors, it also affects you. And let's be honest, our consumer at the end of the day. Some of these, if not all of these initiatives, help the consumer in some way, shape, or form. And that's who we serve. And what better way than to serve ourselves, but also our consumer at the end of the day. So things go a little bit smoother for them. Ben, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Jeff hit the nail on the head with our advocacy and governmental affairs. I mean, we're seeing a lot of movement in a lot of these states that are addressing specific things, and we've been able to attack some of those things before they've actually come to fruition, which has been a benefit to the restoration contractors and the restoration industry. So, to Jeff's point, if you've been on the fence and you're looking at the RIA, if you got questions, please reach out. We would love to have you on our team. If you're a smaller contractor and question if you can afford it, we've got affordable options. If you're a larger, vendor and contractor, we would love for you to, consider the enterprise, membership. That those are the things that help us take the industry and the association to another level. And you can see from the amount of movement we've been able to have over the last couple of years, the things that we've been able to do that we wouldn't have been able to do, in the past on behalf of the membership and the RIA. So I encourage you to take a look at that. I know we're in the middle of the summer here. People are trying to get through their summer vacations until the kids get back to school, but don't sleep on it. Make sure that we're moving those things forward. Look at those fall dates that Jeff mentioned earlier. Please join us at one of those regional events. If you're, curious about what's going on, I think you'd be pleasantly, surprised in that. And then last but not least, at the end of the day, we're talking a lot of business here, but you look at, we're coming off the heels of the situation in Texas and the flooding and what those families are dealing with. They are just unbelievable. And there's gonna be a lot in those communities that are going to take a lot of help, to recover from, and a lot of those families that are going to be dealing with that. So just continue to lift those people up in prayer and those people that are out, doing the rescue and recovery missions there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. And I think too, we've seen so much this year in 2025. And just when we think we've seen it, it's like one more thing happens, right? We've had a ton of fires this year. January started strong, unfortunately, with California. And then we've had numerous tornadoes. I mean, I think we're pretty high this year, if I'm being quite honest, because tornado season generally hadn't started and we were already having them. And then now we have flooding, but we also have fires again. And I think, we play a pivotal role in bringing people's lives back together. And so how can we help each other? And RIA is one of those places where you can help, right? And so, to your point, both of you, let's continue to pray and uplift those who need the help that they need, whether they're in Texas or California or the Asheville or Florida or wherever, they definitely desperately need our help and our resources. So let's make sure we're taking care of them because we'd like to be taken care of as well. With that being said, gentlemen, thank you for another quarterly update. We can't wait to see everybody in the next couple months for another quarterly update. And as always, take care, and we will see you on the next Ask the Expert.